Now we're going to look at social class. And social class is one's level in society, and it's typically broken down into three groups. And most of the time when we look at social class, we're going to put them in a pyramid, and I'll explain that reasoning here in a little bit. The three groups that the social classes are usually broken down into are the upper class, which are usually the wealthiest group of people, the middle class, and the lower class, which makes up the largest amount of the population, but it's the poorest percent. So this group, the lowest class, has the most people, but they have the least amount of money. And so we can see that by putting this in a pyramid, it shows us by the levels and the different sizes of each level, okay, the amount of people in each social class. So as you can see here with the lower class, it's the largest section of the pyramid, means it has the largest amount of the population. There's more people in the lower class than there are in the middle class and the upper class. Middle class is a little bit is a little bit larger than the upper class, but it's smaller than the lower class, so it's right in the middle. And then with your upper class, it's the smallest section of the pyramid, meaning it has the smallest amount of the population. How did social classes develop? Social groups develop due to specialization of labor. Remember, that is one of your characteristics of civilizations. Through specialization of labor, different jobs are considered to be more important than others. Obviously, the more important jobs, okay, the people that do the more important jobs are going to be higher in the social class. Social class was based off of people's occupation, wealth, and their influence in society. So, for example, priests had a lot of influence in society. They were thought to be able to talk to the gods and communicate with the gods. Therefore, they had a lot of influence over the people. And so, therefore, they would be in one of the higher social classes. And through this causes a social hierarchy to form. And a social hierarchy is any system of persons or things that are ranked one above another. So we have this with social class, and we have this in jobs today. In the military, you see how some people are ranked one above the other. So take Mallard Creek High School, for example. Principal Gary, he's at the top, followed by the assistant principals, and so on and so forth. In early civilizations, the social hierarchy of a civilization looked similar to this next social hierarchy, or social class pyramid. At the top, you usually had your rulers, priests, and nobles. In the middle class, you had the merchants and artisans. All an artisan is a craftsperson. All a merchant is like a business person or a business owner. And then at the bottom, the people that made up the lower class were usually farmers and unskilled workers. And these made up, again, the majority of the civilization's population. Now, slaves. Slaves formed the bottom of the social hierarchy. In some civilizations, they were considered a class. In others, they weren't considered a class. Now, slaves were convicted criminals, people who were captured in war, or they were sold into slavery. Okay, so as you can see, you're probably accustomed to seeing and talking about and hearing about the Atlantic slave trade, okay, where Europeans brought African slaves over to the Americas to work on the plantations. During ancient civilization, slavery was not anything based off of race. Okay, if you were convicted of a crime, you could be made a slave. If your civilization was conquered and the people that conquered you captured you and took you with them back to their civilization, you would probably be a slave. Or you could be sold into slavery. So, for example, if you owed somebody a debt and you never repaid it, they could sell you into slavery to repay that debt. So again, slavery was not based on race. And so some examples of social class. India, the caste system. During the Vedic period in Indian society was divided into 4 varnas, or social classes. Over time, those 4 varnas divided into hundreds of smaller divisions called castes. The caste that you were in determined who you could marry, what jobs you would have, and what privileges you had in society. At the top of the Indian caste system, we have the Brahmins, who were made up by priests and teachers. Next, we have the Kshatriyas, who were warriors and rulers. Next, we have the Vaisyas, who are common people, like traders, farmers, herders. And then at the bottom, we have the Sudras, which were servants. Also a part of the caste system was a group known as the Untouchables. Now, the Untouchables weren't slaves. The Untouchables were just a group of people that did not belong to a caste, and they were the ones that could only perform jobs that the other people of the other caste did not want to do. For example, like handling dead animals or dead bodies, sweeping the streets, cleaning up garbage. Okay, so this group did the jobs that no one else wanted to do. And there's an overall view of the Indian caste system. In Egypt, at the top, we have the pharaoh and the royal family. Now remember, the pharaoh was thought to be a god in human form, so not only was he the leader of Egypt, but he was also the head religious leader as well. Next, we have priests, government officials, scribes, military leaders, doctors, and landowners. Under them, we have the artisans, craftspeople, and merchants. Then finally, we have peasant farmers, which made up 90% of Egypt's population. And there's your overall look. Mesopotamia. Civilizations, we see that they have kings and priests at the top, most influential. Under them, we have large landowners and wealthy merchants. Then we have artisans, farmers, and laborers. And a part of the Mesopotamian class system, we have slaves, which were typically prisoners of war. And there you can see the overall view of the Mesopotamian class system.